Hi everyone, it is January 22nd, 2015. I received many messages from subscribers asking me if I've seen this. Yes, I did see it. I saw it several days ago. I actually saw the video years ago, and I posted this video on my original Kafka Winston World channel. And Pink Separate posted a video on this, and I liked it. But as we all know, many subscribers are not getting likes. So I'm going to read it. It is a rather long article, so you can just click on the link below and go off and read it yourself if that's better for you. But it is a very important and interesting article, so I sure do hope that everybody circulates it. 600 strains of an aerosolized thought control vaccine already tested on humans, deployed via air, food, and water. We're in trouble, guys. We're in big trouble. According to the document you're about to see, for the last 8 years, government scientists have actively engineered viral vaccines designed to alter thoughts and beliefs by infecting the brain and suppressing genetic expression of neurological cells. Dispersal of these vaccines has been tested via high-altitude aerosolized spray, highway vehicles, the water supply, and even the food system. As you'll see in the document and video below, the vaccine was intended from the start to be deployed against civilian populations, and 600 strains of infectious viruses were tested on human subjects. One of the transmission vectors documented in the testing exploited an influenza strain to spread the mind-infecting virus as a pandemic. The point of all of this is to infect the minds of the population and transform people into what the government calls normal. From the government's point of view, of course, normal means obedient and mindless. Got to admit, what are we seeing in the majority of the American people? Kind of obedient, mindless drones walking around? This is all described in a video and a document that surfaced several years ago, but which are only now beginning to connect the dots as the medical police state in America accelerates to insane levels of aggression against the population. And you can see the recent stories of the medical kidnapping in Arkansas, a CPS kidnapping of children in Arizona, medical kidnapping in Connecticut. Go to medical kidnapping, I believe it's .com, and you'll read all of the wonderful medical kidnappings that are taking place in the country. This is very real. We're living this. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is fact. So using aerosolized stealth vaccines as tools of behavioral control and mind alteration. This YouTube video, which is embedded in the article right here, described as a leaked Pentagon video, features a Bill Gates sounding scientist explaining in cold, calculating language how engineered vaccines can eliminate behavior that's considered undesirable by the government. Starting at the 3-minute mark, you can hear the scientists explaining how a vaccine can turn a fanatic into a normal person. And you can read the transcript of the presentation, which is, it's so, I can't even get to understand these brains inside this body. These are such profoundly sick people. But here's the transcript. So the scientist says, and that would have the effect, which is to essentially turn a fanatic into a normal person. An audience member asks, how would you suggest that this is going to be dispersed? Via aerosol? Scientist, the present plan and the tests that we've done so far have used respiratory viruses such as flu or rhinoviruses And we believe that's a satisfactory way to get the exposure of the largest part of the population. And we're quite confident this would be a very successful approach. What's the name of this proposal? The scientist says the name is FunVax. FunVax. The vaccine for religious fundamentalism. The proposal has just been submitted, and I think the data that I have shown you today would support the development of this project, and we think it has great promise. It is stunning. So, designed to infect brain cells and alter beliefs and behavior, this document at wanttoknow.info appears to explain, and you can click on the blue lettering and get to the document. It appears to explain the design and intent of the virus in a summary entitled Quarterly FunVax Review. The document says, the objective of this phase of Project ID 149AZ2 is to prepare a viral vector that will decrease the expression of VMAT2 within a human population. The design allows the virus to infect the respiratory tract where cytolytic infection occurs and then subsequent diffusion across the blood-brain barrier to infect brain cells. The document goes on to say that there will be coordination between the research, clinical, and manufacturing groups taking place in 2007. I think this has been going on. This clearly spells out intent to take this project from the research phase to manufacturing and deployment. You may wonder, therefore, against whom these weaponized mind control vaccines might be deployed. The answer is you. Dispersal via air, water supply, highway vehicles, and insects. According to the document linked above, the dispersal of the brain-modifying viral vaccine was tested in 6 different ways. 6 methods of virus dispersal were tested: high-altitude release, water supply release, insect transmission, diffusion by a ground-level object such as a car, diffusion from a stationary object such as a bottle, and infection of food supply such as cattle or produce. Can you believe what I'm reading? If anybody actually believes that they're not trying to kill us off and not trying to mind control us and not trying to change us and control us in every aspect of our life, I don't know what to tell you. But as you take in the paragraph you just read, consider that now, nearly 8 years later, we are witnessing the release of genetically engineered mosquitoes combined with outbreaks of bizarre neurological conditions across the United States in school children and mysterious health conditions all over the world. The high-altitude release of this mind-altering viral vaccine has no doubt already been achieved through the aerosolized spraying of cities in crisscross patterns of aerosolized dispersal at altitude, often labeled as CHEMTRAILS. Suicide genes, field testing, and future experiments. The same document cited above goes on to summarize a research group meeting that apparently took place on March 21st, 2007, in which the following topics were discussed: proposal for a suicide gene, dispersal methods, testing efficiency in the field, inhibitors that may target a specific population, a monkey knockdown progress, future experiments. Other directives in the document say things like all 600 strains of VSV should be retested on human subjects. Future experiments of VSV 287 should allow the subject to breathe in the virus rather than being injected with it. The use of FunVax could see an immediate effect within the targeted zones. The results of mass inoculation should be proportionate to the rate of infection. Behavioral indicators decreased in armed resistance, increase in communications that express discontent with religion or God. Fully intended to be deployed against civilian populations. It's clear from the document that this mind-altering, brain-infecting vaccine was intended from the start to be deployed against civilian populations. In fact, the document discusses plans for covertly taking biological samples from dead civilians in order to determine the effectiveness of the aerosolized dispersal effort. A blood sample of militant casualties or deceased civilian would provide the most accurate estimate of the rate of vaccination. Biological samples, wow. Biological samples from living subjects may be covertly taken. The tests that should be repeated using the VSV-287 are high atmospheric tests. What do you think they're spraying on us? Do you really think that it's just, oh, non-toxic, it's fine, they're just doing this to save the planet? An airborne virus would be the preferred route of infection. A strain named VSV-287 has been designed to spread via air. Only human trials can determine VSV-287's effect on religiosity and spirituality, high atmospheric disposal, or disposal by a ground-level moving object appears to be the most practical. The government has a history of using aircraft to disperse vaccines. The airdropping of vaccines onto large populations isn't new, by the way. As I reported here on Natural News in 2012, the Texas government airdropped 1.8 million rabies vaccines onto the wild animal populations as part of a government-run scheme to vaccinate wildlife. Yes, even wild coyotes and rabbits are not safe from the vaccine zealots. No animal on the planet is considered safe by health authorities unless it is first infected with a virus or two. The Department of Defense plan is far more elaborate, however, using aerosolized dispersal with high-altitude aircraft or even dumping viral vaccines into the water supplies of large cities. Such an action would be considered an act of domestic terrorism if you or I did it, of course, but when the government proposes it, suddenly it's okay. Has a mind-altering vaccine already been released over the United States cities? All this brings up the obvious question. Has this mind-altering vaccine already been deployed over U.S. cities? It's a legitimate question because the high-altitude deployment of this vaccine against civilian populations was clearly the intent of the program. A mass dumbing down vaccine lobotomy would sure explain a lot of what's going on in America these days, such as how certain people still haven't figured out that every statement uttered by President Obama is a calculated lie. I can't wait to watch the upcoming theatrical comedy show called The State of the Union Address. I've also been wondering why we're seeing a wholesale abandonment of morality and ethics across the Western world these days. And it's not an outlandish idea of inquiry to wonder if entire cities of people have been intentionally exposed to a virus that infects their brains, just as described by the scientist in the video above. I know it sounds like the actions of a Batman movie villain, but then again, we already know the vaccine industry is largely staffed by mad scientists with villainous intent. Remember, this is the same group of disreputable scientists who knowingly committed scientific fraud by covering up the confession of a CDC scientist who admitted the agency manipulated data to eliminate any apparent link between vaccines and autism. It's no stretch at all to realize these same people would gladly deploy vaccines to dumb people down if that made them more compliant and docile. The greatest enemy of the vaccine industry, of course, is anyone who can still think for themselves. We also know that vaccines are being deployed right now to covertly sterilize women using sterilization chemicals secretly mixed into the vaccines themselves. We also know there's still toxic mercury in flu shots, even though the establishment ridiculously claims flu shots are 100% safe to give to pregnant women, infants, toddlers, senior citizens, and everyone else. It's not true. And anyone who believes this, please, please do the research on these vaccines before you go and get them. This is an industry that actually seems to enjoy the power trip of causing widespread health harm, vaccine-induced seizures and comas, autism, and even death. Deploying vaccines at high altitude to invisibly fall onto large cities where they are inhaled by millions of people is an almost erotic fantasy come true for these anti-human vaccine zealots who despise life and openly advocate for human depopulation. God, sometimes, I read and I just can't believe what I'm reading. Can good nutrition protect you from aerosolized vaccine weapons of mass mental destruction? When I look around America today and witness the total abandonment of rational thought, the criminality of the medical system, the corruption at every level of government, and the twisted insanity infecting the minds of the masses, I can only wonder if the population has been covertly, but deliberately, exposed to something nefarious. Perhaps some of us are immune, people like you and I, while others fall victim to the virus because they live in states of weakened immunity. Perhaps people who eat the most nutritious foods and superfoods have the best defenses against covert vaccine schemes and are therefore the only ones to emerge with their minds and awareness fully intact. I don't think it's just food. I think there's a lot of factors at play in why some people get controlled and why others don't. And just some of those factors, who the person is, their psychological development, their level of consciousness, their do they take life seriously, genuinely? Do they honor truth authentically? Kind of, is it in their core? It's not just food. But perhaps we're already 5 years into a massive war against human consciousness. And I would say that we are. It's not a matter of perhaps. We are in a war against human consciousness that's being waged every day at every level, from the droning idiots on the cable news networks to the brain-destroying medications dosed out to nearly every person who steps foot in a doctor's office. Combine aerosolized, weaponized vaccines with the mind-numbing effects of fluoride, TV sitcoms, chemical food additives, and mass media social engineering, and you end up with a nation of sleepwalking zombies who are only capable of obedience, not independent thought. Through these aerosolized vaccines, in other words, the hilariously depicted zombie apocalypse may already have begun. And perhaps the so-called mindless masses are actually just victims of a nefarious government-run behavioral modification program designed to turn a human breath into an unintended vaccination event. 2 thoughts that I just want to share with you. 1, if this is actually going on, knocking out people's, the thoughts and beliefs about religion, well, that certainly is a good way to institute a one world religion. And the other thing that came to mind is, why has the Pentagon allowed this video to exist on YouTube for many, many years? It's a leaked Pentagon video that they have not taken down from YouTube. Why is that? Now, I don't believe that it's just a psyop. I actually believe that they're doing this. But why leave the video up here? It begs a lot of questions. And a couple of things come to mind. 1, they don't care. They know they got a majority of the population. And they're done. We're seeing it. We're seeing a majority of Americans incapable of thinking. They think their opinion has just as much weight as a fact. I've had people, adults who were educated, college educated, say to me, well, a fact to you may not be a fact to somebody else. No, a fact is actually a fact. We have adult Americans who are behaving like children. They can't engage in adult conversation. They don't even act like adults. We have adults who cannot handle serious matters. It's stunning what is happening. The lies are so in our face, and we have Americans who simply do not care or won't believe that it's a lie. We have the obvious spraying of toxic chemicals and metals and biologicals and all this crap in the sky, and we have so many Americans who just refuse to become aware of it. And those who are, they simply say, oh, it's fine. They're just saving planet Earth. What is going on? Something is drastically wrong with the American people. Circulate this, guys, please. It's very important. I hope you all have a great night. And I hope that you're all well, feeling good. Because I know so many are now chronically feeling like hell.